Welcome to the Inspire universe.
Taking full ownership of your life basically means stepping into the driver's seat instead of chilling in the back like someone waiting for an Uber that may or may not show up. It's the moment you realize, oh, nobody else is actually responsible for my happiness, my success, or the mess I sometimes create. And weirdly enough, that realization is both terrifying and extremely freeing. Kind of like when you finally check your bank account after avoiding it for a week and find out it's not as bad as you expected. Or sometimes it is as bad, but hey, at least now you know and you can do something about it. See, a lot of people walk around subconsciously hoping someone will swoop in and fix things for them. Parents, employers, partners, the government, a lucky break, or that one motivational YouTuber who yells at the camera for a living. But once you truly understand that most people aren't deeply invested in your day-to-day struggles because they're too busy dealing with their own, you stop waiting for validation, applause, or rescue missions. Not in a sad or cynical way, more in an empowering, oh, okay, it's on me now way. People care, sure, but not enough to rearrange their entire lives to solve yours. And that's actually great news, because it means you get control of the steering wheel. When you take ownership, you stop outsourcing blame like it's a bad group project. No more, I would have succeeded, but, or it's just because of them, or this always happens to me. Suddenly, your goals become your goals, not something you pursue only when conditions are perfect. Your failures become learning moments instead of permanent labels. Your growth becomes intentional instead of accidental. You start realizing that the gap between where you are and where you want to be is mostly filled with choices. Your choices, not fate, not luck, not what your one cousin said during a family barbecue 7 years ago. Owning your life also builds self-reliance, which is basically the emotional equivalent of learning to cook for yourself instead of living off takeout. Yeah, it's easier at first to let someone else do the work, but long-term, it gets expensive, limiting, and honestly a little sad. Self-reliance means that even when life kicks you in the shins, and it will, repeatedly, you have the inner muscle to get up, adjust your stance, and keep going. It's resilience on demand. You don't crumble every time someone disappoints you because you never handed them the responsibility for your entire happiness in the first place. And here's the fun twist. The moment you take full ownership, other people start respecting you more. It's like magic. When you stop blaming, complaining, or waiting for saving, you come off more confident, grounded, and capable. People gravitate toward that energy. And ironically, you end up getting more support from others after you stop depending on it. It's the universe's funny way of saying, congrats, you passed level 1. Another thing that happens, your mindset shifts from reacting to creating. Instead of things happening to you, things start happening because of you. You're not just dealing with life as it comes, you're shaping it. You get to decide your habits, how you respond, what you prioritize, what goals you pursue, and which excuses you throw out like expired milk. It's a lot harder to feel like life is out of control when you're the one calling the shots. Of course, taking ownership doesn't mean pretending you control everything. You can't control the weather, the economy, the traffic on I-95, or how loud your upstairs neighbor walks at 6 a.m. But you can control your reactions, your plans, your mindset, your effort, and the way you show up each day. And honestly, that's more than enough to change your entire direction. Think of it as running your own internal government. You may not control every external force, but your internal management better be on point. When you fully own your life, you also stop comparing your journey to everyone else's highlight reel. You realize that everyone's path is different, everyone's timeline is different, and everyone is struggling with something. Yes, even the people who look like they have it all together on social media. You start focusing on your progress instead of someone else's perfect camera angle. And that alone removes about 60% of unnecessary stress, give or take. Most importantly, owning your life allows you to trust yourself. You prove little by little that you can rely on your own decisions, your own discipline, your own ability to get back up. It doesn't mean you'll always make perfect choices, nobody does, but at least you're the one making them. And every time you take responsibility instead of avoiding it, your confidence grows. You stop feeling like an extra in your own story and start feeling like the main character, flaws, mistakes, character development arcs, and all. So yes, It's easier at first to blame circumstances, other people, or bad luck. It's easier to wait for someone else to fix things, but none of those options actually work. And deep down, you already know that. Taking full ownership is tougher, but it's also the only path that leads anywhere worth going. It's where real growth happens. It's where you learn what you're truly capable of, and it's where your life stops being random and starts being yours. Messy, beautiful, challenging, unpredictable, but undeniably yours. And if that sounds intimidating, just remember you don't need to take ownership of everything all at once. Start with one small thing today. A decision, a habit, a step you've been avoiding. Build the muscle. Over time, you'll realize you're stronger, more capable, and more in control than you ever expected. And the best part, once you take ownership, nobody can take that power away from you. Ever.
Letting go of other people's opinions is basically the emotional version of finally uninstalling that one app that keeps sending you pointless notifications. You know the one. Someone you barely know did something you don't care about. Yeah, delete that. Because here's the truth. Most people are way too busy dealing with their own chaos to sit around judging yours. They're not waking up in the morning thinking, you know what? I should analyze Jessica's awkward comment from last Thursday, or let me critique Michael's Tuesday outfit choices. Nope. They're thinking, where's my coffee? Did I send that email? Why is my life like this? Or who ate my leftovers? People are living in their own little mental storm clouds, and you're barely a passing breeze in their forecast. Once you actually absorb that, like really bake it into your personal philosophy, it changes everything. Suddenly, you stop obsessing over what people think of you because you realize they're not thinking about you. Not really. Not in the spotlight on your every move way that your anxious brain likes to imagine. You could trip in public, drop your phone, spill your drink, mess up someone's name, say something awkward, or wave back at someone who wasn't actually waving at you. We've all done it, and 99% of people would forget about it before they even get to their car. Meanwhile, you're at home replaying it like it's the emotional Super Bowl. This is what psychologists call the spotlight effect, and all it means is that we wildly overestimate how much people notice or care about our mistakes. Spoiler alert, they don't. Think of how many embarrassing things you've seen other people do. Random strangers, classmates, coworkers. How many of those moments do you still remember? Exactly. Maybe one or two if they were hilariously dramatic. But even then, you're not spending your evenings thinking about those people. So why assume anyone is thinking about you that way? It's kind of human arrogance, honestly. Like, yes, everyone must be analyzing me at all times. Sorry, but unless you're Beyoncé, nobody is zooming in on your every flaw. Everyone's too busy trying to figure out their own lives, their next meal, and whether the weird noise their car made is a minor issue or a sign that their wallet is about to cry. Letting go of other people's opinions means redirecting all that wasted mental energy towards something useful, your growth, your interests, your peace of mind. Imagine how much bandwidth you'd free up if you weren't constantly running mental simulations of what other people might be thinking about you. You could learn a new skill, write something meaningful, start a project, work out, build a side hustle, or even just enjoy your life more without that background noise. Instead of trying to manage everyone's perception of you, a job that literally has no salary, no benefits, and no chance of being successful, you get to focus on becoming the version of yourself that you want to be. Not the version that wins imaginary approval points from people who barely cross your mind. And the funny thing is, once you stop caring about other people's opinions so much, you actually become more confident, which usually leads to people liking you more anyway. Confidence is magnetic, but forced, anxious, please think I'm normal energy, not so much. When you're not weighed down by other people's imaginary judgments, you show up more authentically. You speak more freely, make choices that align with your real values, and carry yourself like someone who knows who they are. And that's attractive. Not in the dating sense, though. Hey, that too, but attractive as a human being. People are drawn to people who genuinely don't care too much about being perfect. Letting go of opinions doesn't mean you become reckless or rude. It doesn't mean you stop caring about feedback from people who genuinely matter, your close friends, your partner, your mentors. It just means you stop giving VIP access to strangers, acquaintances, or imaginary critics who don't have any real stake in your life. Not everyone deserves to have a say in your decisions. Half the people's opinions you worry about couldn't even tell you what they ate for breakfast yesterday. Why give them influence over your long-term happiness? And here's another thing. The more you grow, the more opinions you'll attract. People will always have something to say, because talking is easy and living your own life intentionally is harder. If you try something new, they'll judge. If you stay the same, they'll judge. If you succeed, they'll judge. If you fail, they'll judge. So why not just do whatever you want anyway? Opinions are free. You don't have to buy any. When you learn to let go of external judgments, your anxiety levels drop like a malfunctioning elevator. You stop second-guessing every move. Your brain stops creating conspiracy theories about what someone might have meant in a 3-word text. You stop shrinking yourself because you fear looking weird or different. You stop robbing yourself of fun, opportunities, and growth because you're too busy rehearsing imaginary criticism. Life becomes lighter, like taking off a backpack filled with bricks you didn't even realize you were carrying around. And honestly, the moment you stop caring about how others perceive you is the exact moment people start thinking, wow, that person is really confident. And suddenly, their opinions ironically improve, but now you don't need them. You've already freed yourself. At the end of the day, you're the one who has to live with your own decisions, your own personality, your own career, your own relationships, and your own happiness. The random opinions of people who won't even remember that awkward thing you said 2 days from now, completely irrelevant. You don't owe your life to their comfort. You don't owe your personality to their preferences. You don't owe your dreams to their approval. Live boldly. Mess up sometimes. Laugh at yourself. Take risks. Wear something weird. Try something new. Be cringe. It just means you're free. And once you fully let go of other people's opinions, your life stops feeling like a performance and finally starts feeling like yours. Discipline matters more than recognition in the same way that actually going to the gym matters more than posting motivational quotes about going to the gym. Sure, the quotes get likes, but the workout gets results. Real progress happens in the moments nobody sees. The early mornings when your alarm goes off and you consider throwing your phone across the room. The late nights when you're working on your goals while everyone else is watching Netflix. The quiet hours where it's just you, your commitment, and whatever stubborn dream you're trying to drag into reality. That's where things change. That's where you grow. And the wild part, nobody claps for you there. There's no award ceremony for did the thing even though I didn't feel like it, but honestly, there should be. Because external praise is about as reliable as your Wi-Fi when you need it most. People cheer for you when it's convenient, when it looks cool to support you, or when your success entertains them, but they're not showing up every day to keep you going. Recognition feels good, of course it does, but it fades faster than the memory of what you ate for breakfast. You can't build your life on it. What actually carries you forward is consistency, the not-so-sexy grind, the boring repetitions, the Monday mornings when you'd rather become a houseplant than do anything productive. Discipline is that quiet force that doesn't need applause. It needs direction and repetition. It's the engine under the hood, not the shiny paint on the outside. And here's the tricky part. Discipline is rarely glamorous. Social media makes it seem like everyone else is waking up at 5 a.m., drinking spinach air or whatever health trend is happening, journaling for 37 minutes, working out for 2 hours, and smiling through it like Disney characters. Meanwhile, real discipline looks more like rolling out of bed half-conscious, bribing yourself with coffee, and telling yourself, just do the first 5 minutes. It's messy. It's human. It's you showing up when your mood doesn't feel like cooperating. And honestly, that's what makes it powerful. Motivation shows up when it wants to. Discipline shows up even when it doesn't feel welcome. When you start embracing discipline over recognition, you shift from being performance-driven to purpose-driven. You stop living for gold stars and approval badges and start living for progress that only you can see at first. That's intrinsic motivation, when your actions are driven by internal meaning rather than external applause. You stop chasing applause like a puppy chasing a laser pointer and start chasing your goals because they align with who you want to become. This creates a totally different relationship with your work. Suddenly, your effort becomes something you're proud of, even if no one compliments you. You start enjoying the process, not just the outcome. You stop worrying about whether people are watching because honestly, they're too busy scrolling, stressing, or microwaving leftovers to notice your grind anyway. And that's liberating. When you're not waiting for validation, you can focus on building something real, whether that's a skill, a business, a healthier lifestyle, or a better version of yourself. Now, let's be clear, recognition isn't bad. Positive feedback feels great, but you can't live off it. It's like dessert, sweet, delightful, but not a reliable source of nutrition. Discipline is the vegetables of life. Not always exciting, but it keeps you strong and actually gets you where you want to be. And once you get those long-term results, improvement, success, transformation, that's when people will start cheering. But by then, you'll know the truth. Their applause didn't build you. You built you. One of the best parts of prioritizing discipline is that it toughens you up in the best way. You become someone who doesn't crumble when things get dull, quiet, or hard. You stop relying on hype and start relying on habits. You're no longer thrown off by a bad day because you don't need a perfect mood to take action, and that makes you resilient, consistent, unstoppable in a way that people who only work when they feel motivated will never understand. Discipline also teaches you patience, an underrated superpower in a world where everyone wants instant results. You realize that real growth is slow, steady, and sometimes painfully invisible at first. You plant seeds, water them, stare at the ground like, hello, grow, and then one day you look up and realize you've built something solid. Recognition might show up at the end, but discipline is what keeps you going every day in between. And honestly, knowing that you're doing the work for you makes it more meaningful. Nobody can take that away. Nobody can say, well, you only did it because we hyped you up. Nope, you did it on the days when nobody even remembered what you were working on. You did it when the world was silent. You did it without applause. And that makes your success yours, fully, completely, proudly yours. If you ever struggle with discipline, and everyone does, just remember this. You don't need to transform overnight. You don't need perfect routines. You don't need to be some robot of productivity. You just need to show up a little more consistently than your excuses. Start with small actions. Build the habit. Let the repetitions stack up. One day, you'll look back and realize discipline wasn't about forcing yourself. It was about choosing the version of you that you want to become over and over again. And ironically enough, when you stop chasing recognition and start focusing on discipline, guess what happens? People eventually do notice. But by then, you won't be chasing their attention. You'll be too busy building something real, something that applause alone could never give you. And that's the real win. Becoming someone who doesn't just want success, but someone who can sustain it. Someone who works when no one's looking. Someone who grows from the inside out. Someone who's disciplined enough to build the life they actually want. Not for recognition, but because it matters.
Embracing failure as a growth tool is basically learning to treat your mistakes the way Americans treat ketchup. Generously, unapologetically, and with the understanding that sometimes it gets messy, but it still gets the job done. Failure isn't this dramatic, slow-motion disaster the way our brains like to imagine it. It's more like tripping on the sidewalk.
Embarrassing for 3 seconds, then forgotten by everyone except you. And honestly, life gets a whole lot easier when you realize that the world isn't hitting the pause button to watch you fail like it's the season finale of a reality show. Most people don't even notice because they're too busy dealing with their own chaos. Once you really internalize that, the shame around failure starts dissolving, and failure becomes less of a threat and more a teacher, annoying sometimes, but incredibly effective. Failure stops being this monster under the bed and becomes a personal coach who shows up uninvited, points out what you did wrong, and then leaves you stronger than before. And unlike the coaches in high school gym class, failure doesn't whistle at you, yell at you, or make you run laps. It just hands you a lesson and lets you decide what to do with it. The moment you stop expecting someone to swoop in and rescue you, failure becomes a lot less dramatic. When you know it's all on you, you stop falling apart every time something goes sideways. You start thinking, okay, that didn't work, what's next? Instead of, oh no, the universe hates me. You become more experimental, more flexible, and honestly more fun because you're no longer terrified of making mistakes. And here's the secret plot twist. When nobody is watching your every move, you're way more willing to try new things. Want to start a podcast? Go for it. Want to learn the guitar even though your rhythm is questionable? Do it. Want to post your artwork even if it looks like your dog helped you draw it? Why not? When you stop imagining a judgmental audience following you everywhere like a Greek chorus of insecurity, you suddenly feel braver. Your risks don't seem so risky anymore because failure isn't a big public humiliation, it's just another Tuesday. Most of the time, the worst-case scenario is that you learn something. That's not failure, that's progress wearing a silly hat. Let's be honest, failure is awkward. It can sting. Sometimes it hits you in the ego like a dodgeball you didn't see coming. But every time you bounce back, you become a little more resilient. It's like emotional weightlifting. The more reps you do, the stronger you get. At first, even small failures feel heavy. But over time, you can handle way more without collapsing into a puddle of self-doubt. You start recovering faster because you've built up that mental muscle. You get knocked down, but now you're back on your feet before the theme music even plays. You're wiser too. You don't make the same mistakes 6 times in a row. Okay, maybe 3 times, but still, progress. You become someone who learns quickly, adapts easily, and keeps moving because you've realized that failure isn't fatal, it's fuel. And once you shift your relationship with failure, your whole approach to goals changes. You stop chasing perfection and start chasing growth. You stop waiting for the right moment and just start. You stop trying to avoid every mistake and instead start collecting data from them. You stop quitting at the first sign of trouble because you understand that setbacks aren't signs to stop, they're signs you're on the path. You begin to trust yourself more, not because you're flawless, but because you've proven you can handle being flawed. Failure also keeps you humble in the best way. It reminds you that you're human, not a robot programmed for perfection. It keeps you curious because you always have more to learn. It keeps you grounded because it pushes you to look at what you can improve instead of pretending you have everything figured out. And let's face it, if you never failed, you'd be insufferable. People who never fail either aren't trying anything new or are lying. When you embrace failure as a growth tool, you start approaching life like a scientist instead of a scared kid. You experiment, you test, you adjust. You look at what worked and what face planted, and then try again with more information than before. Every failure becomes a blueprint for a future success you haven't reached yet. It's not personal, it's data. And when you look at failure through that lens, you stop feeling attacked by it. You start feeling guided. And here's the best part, resilience compounds. It's like interest on a savings account, except instead of money, you're accumulating grit, adaptability, and self-belief. Each time you bounce back faster. Each time you learn deeper. Each time you recover stronger. Before you know it, you're doing things you once thought were impossible because you're no longer afraid of what might go wrong. You trust that even if things fall apart, you won't. You'll adjust, grow, and keep going. By embracing failure, you give yourself permission to be imperfect and still make progress. You free yourself from the pressure to be flawless and instead focus on becoming better. And honestly, that's the whole point of growth. Not perfection, improvement. Not approval, understanding. Not fear, fearlessness. So don't tiptoe through life trying not to mess up. Mess up boldly. Mess up creatively. Mess up while trying something that matters to you. Every failure is shaping you into a smarter, stronger, more capable version of yourself. Every setback is sharpening your instincts. Every mistake is leveling you up. You don't need the world to cushion your falls. You've got your own resilience now, and it's only getting stronger. And that's the beauty of it. Once you stop fearing failure, life stops shrinking and starts expanding. You take bigger swings, chase bigger dreams, and actually give yourself the chance to win. Failure becomes less of a disaster and more of a stepping stone, sometimes an ugly one, sometimes a hilarious one, but always a useful one. And that's when you realize that failure was never the enemy, it was the training all along.
Prioritizing what truly matters to you is basically the grown-up version of realizing nobody else is going to pack your lunch, choose your outfit, or remind you not to microwave aluminum foil. It's your life, your dreams, your values, so if you don't put them first, nobody's coming in like a motivational superhero to do it for you. And honestly, that's kind of freeing. It means you get to decide what your life actually looks like instead of letting other people's expectations steer your ship like a bunch of backseat drivers who don't even know where you're trying to go. Because let's be real, nobody's out here losing sleep over whether your dreams come true. Not out of cruelty, just because, like you, everyone is busy juggling their own ambitions, problems, and existential spirals. Your big goals might be important to you, but to someone else they're just fun facts. So waiting for others to prioritize what matters to you is like expecting your Uber driver to also handle your taxes. Sweet idea, but not happening. When you understand this, life gets clearer. Your choices stop being this blurry mess of other people's preferences, traditions, pressures, and shoulds. You start asking yourself, okay, what do I actually want? What actually lights me up? What actually fits the person I'm trying to become? That's when you realize just how many random things you've been saying yes to purely because you didn't want to disappoint people. And let's be honest, half the stuff we say yes to doesn't even make sense. Suddenly you're at a brunch you didn't want to attend, helping someone move for the third time, or agreeing to a project that drains your soul. Meanwhile, your own dreams are sitting in the corner like, so, when is it my turn? This is where the magic of saying no comes in. Saying no is like exercising a muscle that starts out weak and shaky, but eventually becomes strong enough to lift the weight of your whole sanity. And saying no doesn't make you rude. It makes you responsible for yourself, for your time, for your energy, for your future. You're not rejecting people, you're protecting your purpose. And the people who actually care about you will understand that. The ones who don't, they weren't helping you grow anyway. You can't build a meaningful life if you're constantly letting other people schedule it for you. But just as powerful as saying no is saying yes, the right yes. The yes that feels like fresh air after being stuck in a room full of expectations. The yes that leads to progress, excitement, passion, or purpose. The yes that reflects who you really are, not who you're trying to impress. You know those moments where something inside you sparks and says, this is mine. Those are the yeses that matter. And the more of those you collect, the more your life starts to feel like your life, not a patchwork of other people's opinions. When you start prioritizing what truly matters to you, you begin living by intention rather than obligation. You stop trying to earn approval like it's some kind of emotional paycheck. You stop structuring your life around what you think will make you look successful, impressive, or agreeable. You start structuring it around what actually fulfills you. And that shift is huge. Instead of drifting through life like a fourth-string actor in your own movie, you start stepping into the lead role. Finally. The best part? Prioritizing what matters creates clarity, real, life-changing clarity. Once you know what your purpose is, or at least what direction you want to head in, it becomes so much easier to make decisions. Instead of agonizing over every little choice like it's a moral exam, you simply ask, does this align with who I want to be? If yes, proceed. If no, bypass. It's like installing a mental GPS. You can take the scenic route, you can take a detour, you can stop for snacks, but you're still headed in the right direction. And clarity creates confidence, not the loud, obnoxious kind. You're not out here yelling about your goals like a self-help infomercial, but the quiet, grounded kind. The kind that says, I know what matters to me, and I'm building my life around it, one choice at a time. That confidence protects you from the trap of trying to live up to other people's expectations. You stop bending, shrinking, rearranging, or reshaping yourself to make everyone else comfortable. You stop acting like your happiness is negotiable. You stop treating your dreams like they're optional. Instead, you start walking your own path. And even if the path is messy, confusing, nonlinear, or full of potholes, it's still yours. You're not following someone else's script, you're writing your own, and rewriting it whenever necessary. And here's the funny thing. When you prioritize what matters to you, life actually gets simpler. You stop chasing things that don't fulfill you. You stop wasting energy on commitments that drain you. You stop feeling lost because you now have a compass. You stop feeling guilty because you're honoring what your heart actually wants. Even the chaos becomes easier to handle because at least it's chaos you chose. Over time, this kind of self-directed living builds authenticity. You show up as the real you, not the version you filtered through other people's opinions. You become someone who isn't afraid to say, this is what I want, and I'm going for it. You become someone who respects your own time and values. You become someone whose life reflects intention, not pressure. And that's when the transformation really kicks in. Because once you start prioritizing what truly matters, everything else shifts around it. You make bolder choices, you trust yourself more, you waste less time, you create more meaning, you stop living by default and start living by design. It's your life. You're the architect, the planner, the builder, the interior designer, and the maintenance crew. Nobody else is going to choose your dreams for you, chase them for you, or feel fulfilled on your behalf. So you might as well choose the things that light you up, protect the space you need to pursue them, and build a life that actually feels like it belongs to you. Because at the end of the day, other people's expectations don't live your life, you do. And once you start prioritizing what truly matters, that life becomes a whole lot more meaningful, intentional, and unmistakably yours.